How's it going, everyone? Today we're painting Hornet from Silksong, just so I can get over the fact that the game keeps absolutely destroying me every opportunity it gets. Honestly, this game's been my life since it came out. It is just so good. So let's get into it. Just a quick thing, the art direction of this game has just kicked me into overdrive. It's hauntingly beautiful and the soundtrack is incredible. So I've got my sketch and let's get to the palette. And these are the colours we're going to be using. So we've got Burnt Umber, Alizarin Crimson, Ultramarine, Yellow Ochre, and Titanium White. And I'm going to start by mixing all of the colours I want to use for Hornet's head. Essentially, we're going for like muted shades of white. So I'm adding Yellow Ochre to some white, and that'll give us a warm off-white colour. It's a bit like cream, and we'll use that for some indirect lighting. And we'll add to that mix some Burnt Umber and a tiny bit of Ultramarine, and that'll give us a nice shadow tone. But I mainly want our shadow tone to be the same colour as the background. So where it's really dark, we'll use a purple mix instead of grey. We'll add more Burnt Umber and Ultramarine to the mix to push it really dark until we eventually have 4 colours, which is our warm lights to our cooler darks. And now for our background colour, we're going to go for like Ultramarine and Alizarin Crimson, and it should give us a nice deep rich purple that should look pretty cool when you add it to the white of Hornet's head. We'll start with the eyes, because that's where I start all my portraits, this one included, and we'll use that dark purple colour of the background to block them in. Are they eyes, or are they the absence of eyes? I'm not sure. Either way, I'm going to be texturing the hell out of this painting with really super thick paint. But we'll get the eyes blocked in first, and then we'll add these nice highlights along the edge of the eye sockets / eyes, whatever they are. Just so we have a nice crisp line where dark meets light, and that should sink them into the face quite a bit, and it should look pretty sort of three-dimensional. Then we're going to work out from there, and really I can't stress this enough, we're using really thick paint. We are loading the brush to its maximum capacity here. We want swirls and ridges and visible brush strokes, and we'll curve from that warm yellow tone along this horn, I guess, into our greyer, more muted tone, and then eventually into our darker purple tone, and then eventually from that into our low light that runs along the edge of the head. I'm getting this textured effect by laying down a nice fat blob of paint, and then using the brush to swirl and dash it around, and it gives like a pretty interesting effect as it blends in with the surrounding paint. I like it anyway. We're going to paint the whole head this way, so we'll slowly curve our way into that purple tone, which is just the warm light mix with our background colour added in. And I want that soft highlight along the side of her head, so we'll get darker as we head towards it, and that should help that highlight really pop when we paint it in, and it should stand out a lot against the really dark background. With the head pretty much in, we'll get a nice thick dab of pure white, and we'll swirl it into our highlights, and just let the brush do its work here. You know, the brush is moving the paint around in whirls and swirls, and you're just there to guide it. Now the head's in, for the most part anyway, we can move on to a cloak, or dress, or parachute, or all of the three, I guess. And using our purple mix, we'll paint the dark hole her head pops out from first, and then work just pure alizarin crimson into the edges, so it adds a nice three-dimensionality to it. And as we add the rest of the cloak in, we'll follow the same lighting that we followed when we painted the head. So a bit of white in the crimson to brighten it up, and then we'll curve it into a darker mix, which is alizarin crimson with a touch of ultramarine, and then into that soft yellow glow along that inner edge. When painting folds of cloth, dark to light tends to work pretty well. So imagine a pipe or a tube, and it's dark along the edges, and as it gets closer to the centre, it gets lighter until you hit a really nice bright highlight, and then back to mid, and then back to dark, and that gives it a nice depth. All that's left to do now is finish Hornet, and then we can move on to her sword, or needle. Man, there is a lot about Hornet I do not know. I'm using our purple mix along one edge, and then the grey mix on the lighter edge of the sword / needle. And that should make it stand out against the dark background as we paint it in. We don't want it to fall into the background, but neither do we want it to be as brought forward as Hornet is. We want it somewhere in the middle. Now her sword / needle's in, we'll load our brush with the really dark purple mix. We'll have the same texture to the background that we did with her head. We're just going to let the brush flit about, and we're giving it a little bit of guidance with our hand. you know, as you get close to the head, it's probably better to use a little bit more precision. But if you go over, it's not the end of the world. It adds a bit of character, and if you really dislike it, then you can always just wait a couple of days for it to dry and then paint it out. So as we reach this top corner, I want I guess like a light shaft or something, just something to break up this large block of dark. So I'll add incremental bits of white to our background mix, so we get progressively lighter as we reach its center. And then I'll use a fan brush just to gently blend it all together so it's softer than it is at the moment. And then we'll add some like dust motes and things to bring it to life. All that's left to do now is sign it. And that's the finished piece, a sort of 3D-ish Hornet ready to go and get her shipwrecked again. Or maybe that's just me and my inability to get good. Oh god, I love this game. Thanks for watching, guys, and if you enjoyed this video, consider hitting like and subscribing and all that YouTube stuff. I really do appreciate it a lot, and it's great to find a bunch of people who are interested in video games and painting. So until next time, farewell.